I performed an official statistical analysis to rank the most down bad universities in America. And now before we get into it, I want you to first take a guess on which university in America you think is the most down bad. And if you went to an American university, where do you think yours is in the rankings? We're going to go through the full standings, and I've even built you a website so that you can go through more in-depth analytics yourself. And at the end of the video, we'll go through a couple comparisons, like how do US compare to Canadian universities, and how do Ivies compare to non-Ivies. So stick around for the full analysis. So basically how it works is I wrote some code that gets all the Reddit data from each university subreddit. Then I run each post through something called embeddings, which is provided by OpenAI. And then with a little coding magic, a little typey, beep, beep, boop, boop, I can calculate a score on its down badness per sentence, which is a term that I made up for the purpose of this series. So this is part 3 in the series, and if you haven't seen the last 2, make sure to check them out. You might notice from these thumbnails that I'm Canadian. So the good news here is you can trust me that these American rankings are completely unbiased. Unfortunately, as it turns out, you guys have way too many universities down there. So I ranked the top 100 schools based on this list I found on the internet. I also threw in a couple honorable mentions. I did this mostly because I don't have a supercomputer. With that out of the way, this leaves me with one question. America, are you ready? Wow, what a rush. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to the least down bad university analyzed, the University of South Carolina. Well done down there, you guys. And I don't know if this has any correlation, but the mascot of South Carolina and their Reddit subname is the Gamecocks. I don't know what a gamecock is, but it might be the best mascot in the country. So let's get into the analysis. First, Ivy schools versus non-Ivy schools. When you average all of the scores, Ivy schools have a down bad post percentage of 1.1%, whereas non-Ivy schools have a 2.1%. I don't know if this is because people at Ivy schools are very, fulfilled with their careers, and they're super smart, and they're very passionate and driven at what they do, and that makes them really happy, so they don't have all this desperation. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But the fact that it's like, on average, there's double the amount of down bad posts in non-Ivy schools than Ivy schools, that kind of blows my mind. Like, well done, you guys. Not the case in Canada, where it's like UBC, U of T, and Waterloo, our 3 best schools, are always the most down bad, so I'm kind of shocked. So then I was going through the different categories of universities, and other than Ivy schools, there was one group of universities that really stood out to me. That would be the UC schools. I don't know what's in the water in California, but something's going on over there. I mean, when you look at the rankings, just looking in the top 10, there's already 4 UC schools there. When you average out the down bad post percentage, they have a whopping 3.8% compared to non-UC schools with 1.9%. Wow. Speaking of UC schools, I also kept track of the size of each Reddit just for fun. And as it turns out, Berkeley has the largest Reddit at the time of the analysis with 151,000 followers. Here, I'll show the top 5 on the screen as well. Also, shout out to Berkeley. While you guys were number 23 on the rankings, I think you guys had the most unique down bad posts. I personally enjoyed reading this love confession between 2 startup founders. I wonder if that ever turned into something. And now you can see on this list that there's a couple Canadian universities because I analyzed them as well, which leads us to our next category of Canadian versus American universities. So American schools averaged a down bad post percentage of 1.9%, whereas up here in Canada, we averaged a score of 2.5%. There you go. I guess us Canadians, just more down bad up here. And because I love my viewers and my subscribers so much, I want you guys to have the best viewing experience possible. So I decided to build you a website so that you guys can go through the numbers and check out your own analytics, see for yourself. Next, how this works is I get the Reddit data for the last 1,000 posts on each university Reddit. How I know the Reddit handle for each university is, well, that took me many hours from manually writing it down. And then once I have a post that I need to analyze, I split it up into each sentence, and then I use each sentence for analysis. So once I have a sentence in a Reddit post, I will embed the sentence with this model called TextSmall3 from OpenAI, and it basically turns the sentence into a lot of numbers, which represents what it means. In the biz, we call this semantic analysis or sentiment analysis, but that's just a fancy way of saying what it means. Then I take this other sentence, which I have deemed to be representing down bad. I could have just embedded the sentence, I am down bad, but the machine learning models work better with more explicit text. So I just didn't want to leave anything to be implied, if that makes sense, just for a higher accuracy. I then take this sentence and I run it through the same embedding, and it'll give me another set of numbers that represent what that means. For the math nerds out there, I know some of you Ivy students are probably watching, it returns a 1,536 dimension vector. Anyways, once I have these 2 vectors, I use a formula called the cosine similarity to calculate how similar these 2 sentences are. I don't want to bore people, so do not worry about this equation or what it means, just appreciate that it works. I do this for each sentence in the Reddit post. I average them all out, and that's what I deem the average down badness per sentence. And now finally, if you're still with me, bear with me here. In order to be considered classified as down bad, it has to be above this threshold, which I deemed as 0.2158, which is right around where I started to see down bad posts to sort of fade out. And once we do that for one post, we keep going and we do it on for the next post. And if you're wondering exactly how much this costs, because these embedding models, they're not free from OpenAI. They do cost a little bit of money. But if you're wondering, so I averaged 100 universities and I took about 1,000 posts from each university. And each post has about 2-3 sentences. Let's err on the side of 2 sentences per Reddit post. So I analyzed over 200,000 and the total cost came out to be 30 cents. That's all. 30 cents. So what I want to say is, if you're interested in embeddings and maybe curious to learn more, just know that you don't have to take out another set of student loans just to try this out. There's also free models out there, but they're worse performance for sure. So if this is a topic that you're interested in, I would highly encourage you to explore it. And finally, I think my favorite part about this series is, I have a computer science degree, but with the current tech industry, it's incredibly hard to get a job right now, especially for junior software engineers. That said, however, I can use my degree to calculate down badness per sentence. This is definitely not what I imagined when I started my computer science degree. Just funny how the world works. And finally, if you've made it this long, I will reward you with a poem. How do I get a girlfriend? Typed out in gloom by the computer science students lost in a lovesick room. From Princeton's quads to Cornell's old halls, the students wonder if anyone hears their calls. Whether UCLA, Duke, or UT's tower, this cross-country heartbreak, it blooms by the hour. When will I find love? We are all united by this post. The same feeling felt from Columbia to the Oregon coast. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more dumb content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you all.